Welcome to Iconic Leadership, the podcast for female entrepreneurs who know they're here to lead, not just build a business. This show is for women stepping into the Alpha Queen era, where leadership becomes identity, power is embodied, and success is created from the inside out. Here, we explore sovereign leadership, expansion, vision, purpose, business, and the inner work that is required to build an empire that fits the woman you are becoming. Strategy matters, but who you are matters more. I'm Karissa Adkins, and this is Iconic Leadership. Welcome to the new standard of the Alpha Queen power. Have you guys ever prayed for something, worked your ass off to make it happen, finally reached that amazing goal, and then found yourself asking, now what? Or you could have done more? I mean, I really want you to think about that for a second. Maybe it was finally hitting your income goal in business. Maybe it was becoming a best-selling author or getting that promotion or buying the house. Maybe it was speaking on a stage that you once dreamed about, launching a podcast, losing all the weight, or finally hearing someone say, I'm proud of you. Whatever it is and whatever it was, you got there. You crossed the finish line. You have been chasing this goal for months, maybe even years, and you did it. And you probably celebrated for a minute. And then some of you probably then moved the finish line or celebrated for a minute and then said, what's next? Well, if you've ever experienced that, then I want you to know something. No, you are not ungrateful. No, you are not lazy. No, you are not broken. And absolutely no, nothing is wrong with you. You're experiencing something that I see so many AAA type, high achieving women experience almost every single week. And honestly, you guys, I've experienced this myself. So if you're the woman who has literally been crushing it at this thing called life or business, but you never feel like you're successful, or you never feel like, why can't I be happy? Like, I just don't even give myself permission to really celebrate this, like full out celebration mode, then this episode is for you. Ladies, welcome to Iconic Leadership, where I help women master themselves so that they can master their lives, so that they can build extraordinary businesses, and so that they can create lasting impact. I'm your host, Karissa Adkins, founder of the Alpha Queen Empire, leadership coach, author of Unapologetic, and someone who has become completely fascinated with one question. Why do so many accomplished women accomplish so many things and still feel like something is missing? Well, every week we'll challenge the way you think, strengthen the way you lead, and give you practical strategies to help you grow in confidence, leadership, business, and of course, self-mastery. But here's what I believe. When a woman masters herself, she doesn't just change her own life. She changes the next generation, and so on and so on. So if you're here, I'm so grateful that you're here, because today's conversation is one I wish someone would have had with me years ago. So I want to tell you what I see every single week. I meet some of the most incredible women, whether it's at a networking event, a conference, or on a sales call. I mean, these women are like, oh my gosh, amazing. Women who have built very successful multi-six, seven, and eight-figure companies. Women leading teams of 5, 10, or 20. Women raising families, writing books. Women speaking on stages. Women who from the outside appear to have it all together. They're the woman that every other woman dreams about and honestly admires. They're the woman that when I ask a woman, right, it's like, who inspires you? There's a woman that comes to mind. They're the woman people say, gosh, her life looks amazing. I wish I had it. And we then sit down together over coffee, or we jump onto a coaching call, or somewhere in the conversation, almost every single one of those highly successful women, right? Those highly successful women Ask me a vision of the exact same question, a version of the exact same question, right? And that question sometimes sounds like, Carissa, why doesn't this feel like I thought it would? And that question has stuck with me for the last 12 months because I've met so many incredible women, right? They're like, oh, I just did this and I just did this. And I just don't even still feel like enough or successful enough. Or my friends and my family always tell me how amazing I am. But gosh, I just don't see what they see. And that is the types of questions and really the conversation that we're going to have because whether it's business or life or whatever, it's really never really about the money. It's never really about the followers or the next launch. It's deeper than that. And maybe you've asked yourself that question too, right? Maybe you finally hit six figures. Maybe you did write the book that you've always dreamed about. Maybe your business is growing incredibly fast. Maybe you're finally getting invited to speak on stages and get paid for it, right? Maybe your kids are getting older and life is starting to look like everything that you prayed for. And yet somehow there's still that quiet little voice inside your head asking, is this it? If you've ever felt that, then I want you to know that you're not alone. In fact, I think you've been sold the same lie that most women have been sold. The lie that success lives somewhere out there. That if you could just accomplish one more thing, earn one more title, reach one more milestone, make a little more money, or grow a bigger audience, or finally get recognized at work, that you'll feel successful. Well, the problem is that success keeps moving, right? That finish line sometimes always keeps moving. And before you know it, you've spent years chasing a life you never actually stopped long enough to enjoy. I remember a season in my business where honestly everything looked incredible from the outside. The business was growing like at warp speed. I couldn't even fucking keep up with it. Clients were coming in, revenue was increasing, people, were celebrating me, opportunities were opening up, right? And if you had looked at my social media profile, you probably would have thought, gosh, she's living her dream life. And maybe you're even thinking that now. But what some people couldn't see was what was happening behind all the scenes. Every time I hit a goal, I immediately asked myself, what's next? There wasn't a major celebration at this time in my life. And sometimes it wasn't even gratitude being shown, right? Like I was winning so often every day. Like I was like, oh my God, another 10K client, another 10K this, another 20K that, another VIP 5K day, right? Like all of these things. And all of a sudden I realized that I was like, I'm not even celebrating and showing gratitude for what used to take me 12 months to make, I now make in a day, right? And and I know, right? I know that gratitude builds everything, right? Everything that I want to do and I want to achieve needs to be always remembered and be grateful for because there was once a time that my life looked completely different, guys. My life looked different financially, successfully, business-wise, health-wise, all of it, right? So I would hit these massive goals and then I would ask myself literally, like, what's next, Carissa? There wasn't space that to like actually enjoy what I had built. It was almost like I was addicted to the pursuit of success. And one afternoon, I remember sitting in my office after, all of my meetings were done for the day and all of my coaching calls were done for the day. And it was really quiet. You couldn't hear anything but my dog heavily breathing. And, it created this sense of focus, right? And I could all of a sudden it was like hyper focused on my own thoughts and I could start to really hear my own thoughts. And I remember asking myself one question that honestly made me really uncomfortable. It was, Carissa, who are you trying to prove yourself to? Right? I mean, that was a big light bulb that went off. Because I'm like, On paper, everything looked great. My P&Ls, everything looked great. The end of the year reporting, everything looked great. I was in the best shape of my life, mentally, physically, emotionally. My relationship was amazing. But I just kept finding myself addicted to achieving the next big thing. And I literally, when that question came into my brain, it was like, who are you trying to prove yourself to? And I just sat there. There was no audience, there was no applause, there was no notifications, there was no clients. It was just me. And I realized something. For years, I have unknowingly connected my worth to my productivity and my success and the awards that I was getting. I felt that if I wasn't producing, if I felt, if I wouldn't feel valuable. If I wasn't achieving, then I didn't feel successful. If people weren't applauding me, then I felt like I wasn't enough. But the moment things started to slow down, and, so did my confidence. So I'm curious, have you ever noticed that for yourself? I mean, how easy it is to feel good about yourself when everything is working. It's kind of like motivation, right? It's easy to stay motivated when everything is working. But in the moment that business slows down, in the moment that, the rain starts coming down and you were going to go work out outside, whatever it is, we are going to cross those moments in our, careers and our businesses and in our lives where things do slow down. And sometimes, the universe has a weird way of forcing the slowdown when the universe knows what's best for us, right? Or our bodies do a forced shutdown when our bodies know that we're about to have a breakdown, right? So it causes us to get sick or something like that so that we have to slow down. So when your business slows down, or when a launch doesn't go the way you planned, or when someone unfollows you, or a client says, I no longer want to, coach with you, suddenly you start to begin questioning everything, right? Not because your business changed, but because your identity was attached to the outcome. Like, if I have so many clients, then I will be successful. And here's what I've learned after coaching hundreds of women. The business doesn't create the identity, it exposes it. Success has a funny way of revealing what's already happening beneath the surface. So if you believe you're enough, success simply gives you a bigger platform to serve. But if somewhere deep down you believe your worth has to be earned, success becomes exhausting. You'll always be chasing down the next, goal and achievement and award. And you guys, that is exhausting, to chase it, celebrate it for a moment, and then create something else, right? It isn't exhausting when you can slow down enough to be like, wow, I'm doing this because it makes me feel good, not because I'm trying to feel love or support from anybody else. Because no achievement is ever enough to satisfy a belief that says you only matter when you accomplish more. And I think that that's one of the greatest lies that women have been sold, is that success is something you achieve. And I don't believe that anymore. I believe that success is someone you become. And those are two very different journeys. I think one of the reasons this conversation matters so much is because we live in a world that celebrates what people can see. We celebrate the promotion, the book launch, the sold out event, the six-figure business, the $1 million company. We celebrate the award that you just got, the thousands of followers, the before and after photos. But very, very, very rarely do we celebrate the women or the woman who had to become capable of carrying all that. We rarely celebrate the woman you had to become and be in order for you even to achieve all of that. And I think that's where we've gotten it backwards. We've become obsessed with building successful businesses, but we've forgotten to build the woman behind the business. That's why I believe the greatest investment you'll ever make isn't in another business strategy. It's in yourself. I remember coaching a woman who had invested in what felt like every program imaginable. She had the marketing courses, the sales courses, the branding courses, the mindset coaches, you name it. She had bought it, all the books, all of it. She even laughed and said, Karissa, if I'm buying courses, if buying courses created success, I'd already be a millionaire. When I asked her like what she, thought she needed and things like that. And we both kind of laughed because we've all been there. Right. So then I asked her the question back. I said, well, out of everything that you've learned over the last 2 years, how much have you actually implemented? I mean, think about it. You're like a freaking you're a knowledge seeking monster. And you're just like, gimme, 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 thinking all this knowledge will actually get you to that success line. But who do you have to be to actually implement it? Because most people will learn, but they won't implement. They won't take action. And I remember she got really quiet. And after a super long, probably awkward pause, she looked at me and said, honestly, probably less than 10%. Now, was her problem information? Hell no. She had more information than she knew what to do with. Her problem wasn't education, it was execution. And her lack of execution wasn't because she was lazy, it was because she wasn't smart. Or it wasn't because she wasn't smart. It wasn't even because she didn't care. It was because every time she got ready to take the next step, fear stepped in. Fear of being judged, fear of getting it wrong, fear that people would criticize her, fear that she wasn't enough. So instead of taking action, she bought another course. Now, because buying another course feels productive, right? It feels like you're actively trying to pursue that goal. It feels very safe. It gives us the illusion that we're moving forward without requiring us to actually risk anything. So, if I can be honest here for a second, I want to ask you, how many books are sitting on your shelf right now that you've never even finished? How many online courses have you purchased that are still sitting at 12% complete? How many notebooks are filled with brilliant ideas from events or conferences or coaching calls that never really left the page? I'm not asking you these questions, ladies, to make you feel guilty. I'm asking because I think every one of us has fallen into the trap of believing that learning and becoming are the same thing, and they're not. Knowledge can change the way you think, but action changes the way you live. And that is where self-mastery comes in. So when I talk about self-mastery, I'm not talking about becoming perfect. I'm talking about becoming aware of the patterns that keep showing up in your life and taking responsibility for them. Because here's what I've noticed. The symptoms almost always show up in our business. We think we have a pricing problem, a marketing problem, a visibility problem, a sales problem, a time management problem. But when we slow down long enough to really look, we discover something deeper. The pricing problem is actually a confidence problem. The visibility problem is actually a fear of judgment problem. The sales problem is actually a fear of rejection problem. The time management problem is actually a boundaries problem. And the business isn't broken. It's simply revealing what's happening inside the leader. That's why I so often say, right, the symptoms are showing up in your business, but the root cause is almost something deeper. I learned this lesson in one of my most unexpected places. I learned this in Kenya. So when I traveled to Kenya, I thought I was going there to, empower and teach and lead thousands of little girls on self-mastery. I thought I was going there to pour into others. And don't get me wrong, we absolutely did, and it was phenomenal. We spoke to thousands of students. We served in communities. We invested in women and children, and we, put 43 girls in scholarships. We donated over 700 period cups, helping them, sustain, period poverty or sustain, their period for that amount of time. Like, Lord knows we did the exact thing that we went there to do. But somewhere along that journey, God started teaching me. I met people who had far less than most Americans would consider necessary for happiness, yet they smiled more. They laughed more. They loved on me more. They weren't constantly chasing the next thing. They were fully present with what they had. And I remember sitting there thinking, how is it possible that some of the most joyful people that I have ever met have the fewest possessions? They've never won an award. They've never, been told, I believe in you. They've never, ever received some, like something big, right? They've never reached a financial goal that they've set themselves, yet they are so incredibly happy. How is it possible? Right? Well, that trip changed everything I thought I knew about success because I realized that somewhere along the way, our culture had convinced us that abundance meant accumulation, more money, more things, more recognition, more accomplishments, right? But what if, just what if abundance isn't measured by what you accumulate? What if it's measured by the peace and happiness you feel and carry? What if real success is waking up every day knowing that your life is aligned with your values? What if success is having integrity when no one is watching? What if success is being emotionally healthy enough to enjoy the life you've worked hard for and build? Because here's the truth, ladies, you can have influence and still feel insecure. You can have great amount of wealth and still have anxiety. You can have a shit ton of followers and still feel incredibly lonely. You can build an incredible, successful business and still lose yourself in the process. And friends, you can still have a shit ton of friends and still feel like you're the only one that gets you. If success costs you your peace and happiness, is it really success? That's the question I want you to sit with today. Not what you're building, not how much you're making or how much you're charging, not what people think of you, but who you are becoming while you're building the business. Because business grows, brands evolves, titles change, markets shift, but character compounds. Integrity compounds, wisdom, self-mastery, it all compounds. And that's the woman that I want to become. Not just a successful woman, but an emotionally healthy woman, a grounded woman, a woman who can enjoy the life she's prayed for because she no longer believes her worth is attached to what she accomplishes. That's the shift. And once you make that shift, everything changes. So let me ask you another question. If everything you're building today in your company disappeared tomorrow, who would you be? It's not a fun question, is it? But I tell you, it is an important one because so many of us have unknowingly attached our identity and our feelings of happiness to what we do instead of who we be. We're the business owner, the coach, the speaker, the mom, the wife, the leader, the author, and those are beautiful roles. I carry many of those roles and wear all of those hats, but they are still just hats and roles. They're not your identity because one day your kids will grow up. One day you will sell your business. One day you'll step off the stage. One day someone else will lead the company. One day your title will be changed. The question is when those things change, will you still know who you are? That's why I believe self-mastery is the greatest investment you'll ever make in yourself because businesses can be built and lost. Money will come and go. Platforms will grow and shrink. But the woman you become, she goes with you everywhere. One of the things that I coach so many women on or like all the time is the idea that your business is always giving you feedback, right? Your business is like a mirror. It reflects what's happening inside of you. So if you're avoiding difficult conversations, your business will eventually expose it. If you're afraid of being visible, your business will expose it. If you are constantly seeking validation, your business will expose it. If you struggle with discipline, consistency, boundaries, or confidence, eventually all of those things will show up in your results. And here's the beautiful part though. That's actually good news. Because if the root issue is internal, it means you have the power to change it. You don't have to wait for the market to change. You don't have to wait for the economy to adjust. You don't have to wait for someone to choose you. You get to become the woman who creates different results because you've become a different leader. That's why I don't believe your greatest breakthrough will come from another strategy. That's why I don't believe that happiness and fulfillment will come from another goal that you achieved. I believe your greatest breakthrough will come from becoming the woman your future requires. And that's exactly why I wrote Unapologetic. Guys, people ask me this all the time. Why did you write this book? And the answer is simple. Because I was tired of watching incredible women spend their entire lives chasing external success and strategies while quietly questioning their internal worth. I wanted women to understand that confidence isn't something you wait to feel, right? That fulfillment isn't something you have to wait to feel, that happiness isn't something you have to wait to feel until something happens. It's something you get to feel every day. It's something you build. Leadership isn't something you perform. It's someone you become. Self-worth isn't earned through achievement. It's discovered when you stop measuring yourself against everyone else and you start living your truth, and start living in your power with who God created you to be. That is what unapologetic is really about. It's not about becoming louder. It's not about becoming more successful. It's not about becoming, more, more a woman who achieves more. It's about becoming more you. The woman underneath the pressure, underneath the expectations, underneath the comparison, underneath the need to prove yourself to the world so that you feel better. Because I honestly believe that that's where your greatest leadership lives. So here's what I want to challenge you to do before next week's episode. I don't want you to make another to-do list. Lord knows you're a master at making notes. I don't want you to sign up for another course. I don't even want you to set another business goal, at least not today. But instead, I want you to spend 10 quiet minutes asking yourself one question. Who am I becoming? Not what am I achieving? Not what do I need to accomplish next? But who am I becoming? Am I becoming more peaceful, more patient, more courageous, more emotionally healthy? Maybe you're a woman who's becoming more disciplined, more present, or more authentic. Because if the answers to those questions is a yes, then you're succeeding. If you're a woman literally working on your discipline and your, being present and your authenticity and, how you get to control, your reactions and things like that. If you're working on that, that's that inner game that I'm always talking about, then you're doing it. You are succeeding and you should feel happy because you're evolving, you're growing. Half the population is okay with being average, if mediocre at best. But not you, because you're watching this, you're listening to this. So give yourself some grace. You are working on becoming the best version of you. Even if that just means listening to this podcast, while you're walking on the treadmill or trying to cook a dinner. Even if your business hasn't caught up with you yet, right? Your business, you're still working on you. I also want to encourage you to start paying attention to the language that you use with yourself. Do you celebrate your growth or do you celebrate the result? Do you acknowledge your courage for taking action or only the accomplishments? Do you recognize the woman you're becoming or only criticize the woman you're not yet? Queen, I want you to give yourself some credit. You've survived things that you once thought would break you. You've learned lessons you couldn't have learned any other way. You've kept showing up when it would have been easier to quit and go back. So don't ever overlook that. That is self-leadership. Maybe not the kind that the world applauds and that people can see on social media, but it is the kind that changes the next generation.
So before I wrap up today, I want to leave you with one question, one more, right, that I hope stays with you all week long. Are you measuring your life by what you're accomplishing or by who you're coming? Because I truly believe that that is the difference between women who simply achieve success and those who actually enjoy it. Sit with that this week. So ask yourself, instead of asking yourself, what's the next thing I need to accomplish? Who do I need to become? Okay. If today's conversation challenged you or got you to think outside the box, I'd love to invite you to continue your self mastery journey. So, first, I want you to grab a copy of Unapologetic. I wrote it for the woman who's tired of chasing everyone else's definition of success and is ready to build a life that's aligned with who she truly is. Second, I want you to join us for our Rise Up and Network coffee chats. We meet the first Monday of every month. So if you're craving a real conversation with women who are committed to growing from the inside out, I'd love to welcome you to that community. Okay, we meet once a month for 1 hour. Think masterminding blended with networking, blended with learning and growing. It's a beautiful combination, and the best part is they're completely free. And I also then want to encourage you, if you are really struggling with feeling worthy and you have, anxiety and stress around like achievements and success, I want you to download the Rise app. Think of this as your daily mindset coach, helping you strengthen your confidence, leadership, and self-mastery one day at a time. It's an app. It's literally $11.11 a month. Some of my clients say it's the best $11 that they spend every single month. And I'm like, wait a minute, don't you spend really great money on our coaching calls? But they love the app. They absolutely love it. They plug into it every single day for their daily meditation or daily, alignment practice or mindfulness practice or breathwork session. Okay, so before you go, I want you to join me this Thursday for another 8-minute or less breakthrough lesson with me because we're going to tackle something I think is keeping so many women trapped. We're talking about why working harder isn't growing your business. So if you've been grinding, if you've been working those long hours, checking off more tasks, doing everything you know to do, yet still not feeling like you're where you want to be, or maybe you feel like you're spinning your wheels, I want to show you what's actually happening beneath the surface because the answer is not to work harder, ladies. The answer is to become a different type of leader. I'll show you exactly what I mean by that on Thursday's 8-minute breakthrough. So, ladies, thank you so much for spending part of your day with me here on Iconic Leadership Show. If today's conversation challenged you or encouraged you or gave you a new perspective, would you do me a favor? Go ahead and subscribe to the show, leave us a review, or share this episode with another incredible woman who needs to hear this message. Until next time, live boldly, live unapologetically, and remember, master yourself and you'll master your life. Because when a woman masters herself, she doesn't just change her own life, she changes the next generation. Bye for now.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Iconic Leadership. If today's conversation activated something within you, make sure you subscribe and share this podcast with women who are ready to rise up too. Leaving a review helps this movement reach more women stepping into their power. This is Iconic Leadership.